My name is Melanie Nowlin. I'm the program lead for the Movement Lab social media team. And what we do right now is we have over 1,300 members nationally, and all of our volunteers and our teammates amplify democratic messaging and organizing every day of the week. And we run this through an app we use. It's a relational organizing bit of software called Empower that I kind of MacGyvered into a social media distribution platform. And we're doing really, really well in states like Arizona, Wisconsin, California. We're starting to pick up quite a bit in Georgia. And I think at present, I'm going to have to check again, but I'm pretty sure we're represented in all 50 states, or at least the 48 contiguous ones. One of the things that we emphasize is to make sure that we're building a democratic community and that we're connecting Democrats. One of the reasons that this work is so important is that what I am organizing volunteers to do now, the Republican Party has been doing for 10 years. The DNC, for reference, only opened a social media department for the first time ever in January of 2022, largely in response to the Capitol riot. Which was about 78% organized online on social media. Since that time, Twitter has gotten more right-wing. Facebook has become more left-wing and is a lot less tolerant of right-wing nuttery than it used to be. And one of the reasons we focus on Facebook is not only is it one of the easiest to use platforms and the majority of our voters are here, but also it tends to be a little bit more Democrat friendly in this day and age than a lot of other platforms will be. So what I have done so far in your state is speaking to Miss Mary, who's been coming to some of my huddles back from when I participated in Rural Power Lab last year as one of the organizers. She came to me and said, I really would like you to present what you're doing and how we could sort of increase our social media output and work with this networking online. And I came in and I gave a very generic kind of presentation just on some topics and some things that they could do. And mid-meeting, they wanted more and more and more. And so I said, you know what, y'all give me about a week. And I came back and I wrote them a program. And then I got a chance to talk to some of y'all. So I would like to get the legislative districts involved. And I've spoken to Ms. Jillian about doing that around, like, with not just here, but any other legislative districts or other groups that want to get involved. And so what I'm going to be going over today is what I've showed the county chairs to get them introduced to the idea. And what I want to do is follow up for y'all with what I gave the counties, which was a checklist for success. That it's a certain amount of items that we're all going to try to collectively get done by September 1st. But I will say this, that so far the counties have exceeded my expectations. Any expectations that I could have had, the counties have gone full bore into increasing their digital output and using a variety of different content. And we have actually created data capture opportunities as well online so that we can start getting some information back on likely Democratic voters that we might not have reached otherwise. So let me go ahead and start and give you the basic presentation for Operation Blue Phoenix. And we're going to figure out how the legislative districts can best support this and work into it. But excuse me, can y'all see my screen okay? So I'm going to kill my camera for a minute because we don't need all them things going at once. So welcome to Operation Blue Phoenix. We are in phase 1 from the ashes. This is a collaborative effort right now between our counties, our state party, and movement labs. So why Blue Phoenix? This is what we're going to cover tonight. And I'm going to go through these sections and talk a little bit more about some of these things. And then I'm going to have plenty of time for Q&A afterwards. So I'll try to get through it as best I can. So why Blue Phoenix? Well, not only is the word basically synonymous with Arizona, the legend of the Phoenix itself is really, really appropriate to our organizing work, because to organize effectively, either in person or online, we need to collaborate with one another. And collaboration, much like the mythical Phoenix, rises from the ashes of challenge and conflict, rejuvenated and stronger than before. But just as the Phoenix must work together with other creatures to regenerate itself, successful collaboration requires trust, communication, and a willingness to listen and learn from others. And by coming together and pulling your unique strengths and perspectives, collaborators can overcome even the most daunting obstacles and create a new and powerful force to rise up to face these challenges. So rising like a phoenix, in essence, means to emerge from difficulties and challenges stronger and more resilient than before. But the main thing I want to emphasize here is that the Phoenix can't do it alone. We can't just have all of our blue voters hanging out in Phoenix and that's going to fix everything for Arizona. We have a lot of Democrats in a lot of far-flung places all over our country, not just in your state, that are all really convinced they're the only Democrats that are out there. And part of our work is to push back on that notion. So when it comes to streamlining our data capture, I don't usually run into a lot of state or county party initiatives that talk about using social media for data capture. One of the things that we do is we do phone banking, or we do canvassing. And there are things that we do not get, bits of data that we do not typically get when we operate those sorts of outreach endeavors. We don't get email addresses, for example. We don't have a tendency to get some of our contact information updated very frequently. So when we're pulling our lists on Van and we're making phone outreaches, which are getting more difficult all the time because people don't want to answer the phone for somebody they don't know, then we're kind of like losing people almost at every bend. So going on social media and trying to create data capture opportunities there helps a lot, because people have it in front of their face all the time. And the other thing that's very interesting about using social media for democratic outreach is that, you know, you may hear all the time that you need to instill a sense of urgency in your outreach every time you do something to try to keep people motivated and on the ball. The very nice thing about social media is that you don't actually have to do that very hard on social media, because the urgency is already built into the platform. Everything on social media is new, now, next. And there's aspects like FOMO, which is an acronym for fear of missing out. I have noticed that in organizing online and trying to build up volunteer bases or something, using online messaging to do it, if somebody comes back to me and says, well, I don't know about that, I go, okay. And I keep walking, or not walking, but virtually walking. And what's interesting about that is that that is usually enough to make the person turn around and follow you, because they're afraid they're going to miss out on something if they didn't, because the urgency already exists. So when it came to the county parties in particular, I had to discuss this with Miss Mary Darling and make sure that I wasn't telling anybody the wrong things. But one of the things that I've got counties doing is using their Mobilize more thoroughly than what they have been doing. Let me ask a question real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my camera here a little bit. Are the legislative districts, do you guys have your own Mobilize dashboard?
No.
No, that's okay. We don't need that for the legislative districts, but the county parties do. And one of the things that we have there is the ability to get data entered from people on their own. So digitizing and automating our data capture processes is really essential to being able to build the capacity that we need to flip Arizona blue, or at least one really aggressive purple, you guys. And when we talk about voter data, we don't really think about the part that if people aren't directly interacting with the party, we don't get that data. There's a lot of volunteers that may think that the party in their county doesn't really stay on their one topic that's their big voting hot point. Maybe it's reproductive rights, maybe it's the environment. And what you tend to see in your volunteer base, or when we do outreach, is if they don't see these things reflected, they don't think that our priorities are alike. What happens is that person will go volunteer for the Sunrise Movement or for Planned Parenthood. And there's nothing wrong with either of those organizations. I love me some Sunrise Movement. They do great work, but the one thing that they don't do is they do not turn out voters. And the voters don't know any different. It surprises people all the time when they come to my volunteer huddles and I say, you know, if you don't interact with your county party doesn't know you exist. And we might know that you exist by your voter rolls and your voting history. But for example, in my state, we don't have party registration and we have open primaries. So when you are making a list to outreach to people on the phone or send texts or something, you're basically throwing a dart and hoping you don't hit an armed Republican. You know, and also the only thing that we have to really help to create those lists and cultivate those lists are things like the DNC support score. If any of you are van people, you're probably familiar with that. But the DNC support score, while there's nothing inherently wrong with it, it's based on a couple of different bits of data. One of those data is, do they routinely donate on ActBlue? Well, we know right there that brings us down to a very small subset of people that are able to donate, right? But we have that data and it adds to their DNC support score. Another thing that we use quite heavily to establish that DNC support score are surveys directly from DNC, which almost nobody answers because the DNC puts a fundraising link in everything that it does. And so people start shipping that to spam. So in South Carolina, when I was working for the candidate that was going up against Joe Wilson, oh, lucky me, that's my congressman, this year, I started realizing there were a lot of people whose information was in Van, and I knew to be very staunch leftists, but if we were going by virtue of that DNC support score, they would have been in the same category as MAGA Republicans. So that's a lot of people we're not hearing from. And so one way that we can both get our information into Van, you know, a common phrase in campaign organizing is if it didn't happen in Van, it didn't happen. We need that record so we know who to reach back out to. Van is our war chest of crucial information that we and our candidates will need on hand to campaign and to turn out voters. And so we can't fix the problem all in one sweep of making sure all that data gets into Van, because in any given party structure, there's usually one or two people who are real good with the Van and everybody else is like, huh? And that's a big, I know y'all know what I'm talking about. It's a big hurdle, okay? I had to get good at Van because there was just nobody else in my county to do it. So here I am. But that doesn't mean that I can even explain that to some other people that are in my county party. They're just like, no, you do it. But that doesn't help us. So one thing that we do have on hand is Mobilize, because when we get information from people and it goes through Mobilize, it syncs directly into our Van automatically. So how can we utilize that better? Well, one thing that your counties are doing is they are making use of events other than just this one. And this would be your scheduled event, which we're all very used to. If you want to sign up for a virtual event, all your times and dates are going to be there. That's where we get our RSVPs. One of the things that we are having that your counties go out and do is create petitions, pledges, and interest forms that are focused specifically on just about every hot button, one issue voter topic you can think of, from the environment to reproductive rights, to healthcare access, to Social Security, to LGBTQ rights and protections. And we're handling them one at a time. The reason we're doing this is because that is now going to go up as content on their Facebook. So we will be sharing stuff. And when people see their interests reflected, they're way more interested in getting involved. Also, We all know there's very few people in a group of Democrats that will actually volunteer, right? Like that's a rare find, and we're grateful for everybody that we've got. But the people that when you reach out to them and you're maybe calling for a candidate or you're trying to turn out people to vote and you're like, are you interested in this or donating for this? They respond with, but I vote blue. And that's great, but those people are not volunteer people. They're very unlikely to be moved into volunteering. We still need to know who they are though, right? And so if you know, we still need to remind them, hey, by the way, you need to go vote, because even the people that say they're going to vote blue, I'd love to sit here and tell you that people are going to turn themselves out to vote, but y'all, I've been doing this too long. Most of the people that think their commitment is their vote, they need to be reminded to vote about 62 times on average, over 6 months. And then the last half of that is probably in the last 3 weeks before the election, okay? 22,000 phone calls to Jamie Harrison I made, y'all, trust me. But at any rate, what we're doing is we're giving our counties an opportunity to collect data on likely Democratic voters through a means we have not used before, which would be the petition. Because the same people that will say, I vote blue, but I'm not volunteering and you're not getting my money, they will sign a petition any day of the dang week. And then they wonder why they end up on everybody's email fundraising lists and everything, right? Because it's a big data capture. Personally, I detest petitions for the most part, because I know they don't ultimately result in anything most of the time. But it's an easy thing that people can do. They sign their information and they get to go, yeah, I did something today. And that's great. They also given us their information so we can turn them out to vote, an email address. They have given us their zip code so that we know where we need to turn them out to vote. And we have the golden snitch, if you will, of this stuff. We have, ta-da, an interest that they are interested in. So I did a system like this in 2 counties in South Carolina for whom podunk would be an apt description, just like this end of my county. And I specifically picked all the rural counties. I had my pick of whoever I wanted to work with initially, and I got all the ones that have connectivity issues and stuff, because I was tired of seeing them be underrepresented and not worked for. So we had 2 offices, and neither one of them had ever had a Democratic Party office that anybody could remember. We just had some very motivated people that were running this out of their houses and whatnot. And so we did a series of petitions where we took these voter interests that are usually the one person's hot button. One thing that will get their attention would be reproductive rights, or for another person, it would be the environment. We made those petitions as locally relevant as possible. So if it, you know, when I told the chairs about this, I said, I don't care if it's that your water systems are really messed up and they've been needing to be worked on for a long time. If you got a stinky ditch and nobody's doing anything about it, throw a rock. There's going to be an environmental disaster somewhere near you. And that's what you write about. And you say, this is how the Democrats feel about it. You've now gotten the indication from someone that they would vote with Democrats on this issue. And we also, if we want to be real cute, when we get back to our outreach later, what we did in Lawrence County and McCormick County, South Carolina in particular, is whoever signed on to, say, the reproductive rights petition, when we messaged them back to start turning them out to vote, that is the theme that we used when we reached out to them. So if they said something about the environment, we sent texts out about that led with the environment. And the people felt responded to, they felt heard, and they felt like the party was representing their interests because they got to see it show up online. And with the urgency already being built in to the system of being online, and everybody wants to see what's new now and next, we didn't really have to push that part so hard. But what we did do is through repetition and posting these kinds of items frequently, we showed our communities that we were involved in action, that we had a wide repertoire of things that we were about, And quite frankly, a big part of your job on social media is to put the best image of yourself forward, and a lot of it takes care of itself after that. But it's, most people go, I don't know what to post. My usual answer to that is post something, because something beats the crap out of nothing. And so what we have them doing is, once I got established with Miss Mary, that all of our counties had the ability to utilize their own mobilized dashboards. They're in the middle of their checklist for success that they got to get finished by September 1st. And they are making on average 20 to 30 different mobilized actions at the end of it to make sure that they're grabbing people's attention. Now, where would we fit into this? As a legislative body, we're gonna talk about here in a minute. But for Team Arizona, our Arizona teammates, and we do have a lot of our volunteers here, and we turn around and give them assignments and exercises that literally direct them to search Mobilize for volunteer opportunities in Arizona and share them into Democratic groups, that literally give them stuff about amplify your House Democrats today. And we direct them to the House Democrats Facebook page, so they're sharing things about active legislation. What we don't think about is that we don't share this as much as we share things about Republicans that make us mad, which doesn't show us in any kind of action and is not inspiring and has a tendency to wear people out real quick. People get depressed, right? What we're doing instead is we are championing our Democrats with repetitive and hyped up messaging. And we're sharing this stuff, because I cannot tell you how many people I have spoken to on somebody's reelection campaign. And they're like, well, I voted for him and that dang Democrat didn't do anything, which we all know is crap. Okay. The difference being they didn't hear about it. We weren't sharing that. We were sharing how Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia makes us mad for the umpteenth time today. And we didn't share anything that showed the hard work that our Democrats are doing or how people can get in action. We just showed people more stuff to get depressed about, and we wonder why they don't show up. So our teammates share these links to friends and family, to Democratic or democratically aligned groups on Facebook that are based in Arizona. And we're already seeing followers growing for our county party pages because of the emphasis that's being put on sharing this and making sure it gets out in these channels. Another routine example of an action that our teammates do is we actually direct them to like, follow, and then invite others en masse to follow their state, county, or organizational pages for Democrats, which means that everybody's followers are going up. And if they don't actually click on to follow, they're going to get notifications from Facebook about it till they do. So that's a lot of automated outreach reminder that's going on for us, that's just built into the system. So using Mobilize, ActBlue, our fundraising links and campaigns and other digital tools, we can make our lives a lot easier by launching with our data capture plan already in place. And as y'all well know, herding cats is damn near impossible if you got write down all their names on a piece of paper at the same time. We need this stuff digitized. So your county parties are doing a lot for that right now. Most of this was built for the counties, and I'm trying to make sure that we, at the end of this, talk about what we're going to do as a legislative district with this information. But a big thing that we are doing with our county teams is that they are interacting with one another. And this is another thing that I see doesn't get done enough. And so one of the things that they're doing is they're reaching out to each other and they're talking about what's going on in their counties. But most importantly, they're literally being directed to share bits of information, posts, content from all of the other county parties. Because the algorithm does not think in content, feelings, or ish. It thinks in math. So one of the things that we have, like our county party Facebook page administrators doing, is when they have to interact or engage with another county party's content, like they like on it, or they comment, or they share. That's another number that adds up to the overall engagement on that post. So I've been saying, do it as your county page account and then go onto your personal account and do it again. because now we have 2 engagements and not just 1. And so what surprised me about when I handed the information out to your counties, like I said, I thought we were going to have to be playing some catch up for the first 3 or 4 weeks, get everybody kind of on the ball. I sent them everything on a Monday night. I woke up Tuesday morning and my entire damn feed is dominated by Arizona. My page follows 500 different Democratic entities minimum from all over the country. So something is happening right with collaboration and coordination, because there's a lot of competition in my feed. But all of a sudden, every time I get on there, it's 5 minutes to scroll until I get to something that ain't Arizona. And I couldn't believe that they jumped on this so hard. But y'all's counties are doing a dang good job right now, as they're diversifying the kind of content they put out. Now, what they're also doing is they're providing admin and moderator support to each other. So it's very easy to kind of get into our own little bubble here. But if we don't learn to support each other better and reach out and actually understand that people are going to have shitty days and this, the most thankless customer service job that doesn't pay that ever existed, we're not going to have any energy for 2024. So a big part of what they're doing is, when I told them, I said, you know, if you're delegating, you know, stuff to another officer or volunteer, put them in touch with me. Be willing to delegate these tasks out and share them. This is not 007 super secret. We're all on the same team, guys. You know, if something's working out for your county, or you see something going well in a county, we need to work on trying to engage our county with that every way we can. And we're not going to do that if we're not willing to say, I don't know how to do that. Could you tell me how you did that? And be willing to take advice and learn. So a lot of that we're doing here with them is they're supporting one another, and it's making all the difference on how visible what they're putting on social media is. Because just like I try to divert my volunteers from doing too much punching right online, like I find Marjorie Taylor Greene memes funny too, y'all. But I also know that every time she gets a click, a like, a react, an angry react, and anything, she's just making more money. And we don't need to help her. So one of the things we do instead is we actually are creating, by these people all sharing and following each other's pages, we're creating something of an information-based neighborhood for viewers to traverse through. So when they follow one, the others are going to get recommended to them. Other Democratic content in Arizona is going to become more prominent in people's feed because of this. So, setting up our social media and digital output for success. Do we have a Facebook page for this district? Because if not, we're going to build one.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We have a Facebook page. Yeah.
Okay. So you need to make sure that you have an admin team so that this doesn't all fall on one person. Because that's crazy. Okay, that doesn't allow that person a chance to get sick or anything. And none of this stuff needs to be gate kept. This just needs to be, somebody needs to be able to fill in. So you make kind of a weekly content plan. It doesn't have to be perfect for y'all. What I would highly suggest is that is your legislative district, and forgive me, y'all, I do not live there. I'm doing my best to catch up. But your legislative district, is that mostly one county or several? How many counties are we talking about?
We've got 5 counties.
5 counties. Okay. So one thing that you guys could be doing with your Facebook page is worrying a lot less about coming up with individual content for it, right? A few would be good. But actually making yourself kind of a clearinghouse of shared information of what your counties are doing. This gives you access to their followers. Your page is going to start getting recommended to their followers so that we're getting people more united in groups. And they will be putting out enough content that you can share it amongst other things. Because if you don't have enough content going up, Remember that when people are scrolling on their phones on Facebook, the average person is scrolling past 1,500 pieces of content in an hour. I know that sounds like an awful lot, but if you think about how fast you're going by some of that stuff, if you got somebody to stop, that's damn near a miracle. Okay, or if they stop, there's a good reason for it. It says because you have Democrat in your title and they went, oh, thank God. That's usually what happens. So what we have to do is make sure that our content is reflecting what we're doing, not what somebody's doing in another state. What are our entities doing here? What's going on in our county? Are there news stories about issues that are affecting your district that are environmental? Is there something that we can share from the buildingbacktogether.org that shows where the American infrastructure is paying for advancements in Arizona? We're not championing these topics enough as Democrats. And where are people going to get them if not from us? Because the Republicans aren't going to admit that Biden gave them the money to do stuff. Not on your life. They were all turning these funds down when they were first initialized. And now they're all acting like it's their idea, which is really mad, right? So we need to be talking about what Democrats are doing. People, and this is where you lose the progressives, is that if there's too much negativity, just talking about how the other guys are bad, the younger people and the progressives go, well, I still don't see an action plan. And they keep scrolling. Like, I get that they're bad. I need to move on. What are we going to do about it? Or give them something to actually put in their brains that's going to teach them something about how this political process works. So the nice thing for you guys as a legislative district is that you got 5 counties that are busting their butts putting out content, and that gives y'all something to share and something to start building upon. One of the things I told them about content is that creating events on Facebook that are also hosted on Mobilize. This might sound really redundant, okay? But as a legislative district for your page could create events and invite your followers to it and share these things out and have the link that takes them to Mobilize to sign the RSVP up. The reason a Facebook event is valuable is that it will notify somebody no less than a dozen times that something is going on if they've even clicked interested in it. They will notify them the day of. It will notify them 3 days before. It will notify them an hour before. It will notify them half an hour before. And you can't even get hassled about it because you didn't do it. Facebook did it. It's just standard practice for Facebook. But these push notification reminders are really good with today's culture of everybody's moving from one thing to the next really fast with information to sort of remind people, oh, I can tune into this virtually. I can do this. So this is basically like putting extra alarms and extra alerts on an event you're already pushing out, and Facebook will do these alerts for you. So this is going to be notifying people all the time that this stuff is going on. Another thing that we're sharing is content from state Democrats about work they are doing. We have a fantastic House Democrats page in South Carolina. And what broke my heart was to realize that this is the best source of information on exactly how hard our Democrats are fighting in our legislature against things like abortion bans and the kinds of crazy crap they're having to deal with. And the only people that I see following this page are people that work there or people that worked to get these people there, like me. This is not a widely shared resource. So we actually made a national team effort out of this. And weekly, our people are going to House Democrats pages for their state and sharing this information into groups and out online to actually show what your votes got you out of your representatives, to show that action is happening, to show that things are going on. We might think they're boring. We might see this stuff all the time, but we have to remember that if we're on this call, we're the weirdos. We're the ones that are more politically engaged than the average person. We're the ones that are the odd man out that's paying attention, right? In order to get more people to pay attention, it's a system of repetition and constant messaging. And this is one way we can do this that doesn't cost us any money. And we can get in the habit of doing it to where you can start doing this stuff from your phone as you're doing other things. Another thing that your Arizona Democrats have done a really, really, really good job with is I suggested to them to make sure that somebody was assigned to take pictures or videos of absolutely everything that they're doing in person, because that gets people so excited it's not even funny. It's something in the human brain about seeing, oh, there's more than just me out here. And it makes people feel very confident. And what we're mostly doing with our online output is we're raising that confidence level in our people. Maybe people don't even realize they have a Democratic Party where they live because they're so surrounded by Republicans, or Republicans are getting all the airtime. This is one way to combat that. So another thing that's very important is that you're sharing content about things that are happening in your counties that are under your legislative district. I know this might sound redundant, but if you can share a story from a local source, a local news outlet, preferably one that's already got that story linked up on their Facebook page, and that's what you share, you're increasing your geographic relevancy to where more people are going to see your content in your area. It's going to start being suggested as suggested content to some of these people based on their other interests. If you don't put anything of yourself out there, or you don't do it very frequently, the algorithm isn't going to pick you up as being very active, because you're not, and it's not going to suggest that content to people. So this is a way of using a system that's already in place. It's basically a relational organizing system, y'all. Get this, with the distribution method already there, the personal networks already in place, and it doesn't cost us anything to use it. And honestly, I feel like this is where Democrats just usually look at me, because I feel like if we don't spend $3,000 a pop on something, we don't take it seriously. But this is not feasible for most of our county parties across the nation to just drop money on things. But we need to turn out our vote, and we need to show our voters that we are working in their best interest, that things are happening all the time. We usually only talk about these things right up before an election. And if we really want to make a deep dig into turning places blue by 2024, the earlier we start, the better. So where do you find content? In your case, as your page, as your legislative district page, you would follow initially all of your county party pages if you haven't already. Okay. Because again, that sets up something of an interest and algorithm-based network that people who travel to one will get the others recommended to them and start showing up in their feed. Your state house Democrats pages, where is your work from your legislature being posted? This is a great resource. Generally, nationally, every state has one. And I know that we've been sending people in Arizona to start talking about what's going on in Arizona and share content from there. National news is great. I will say this, if you don't post anything but stuff that's of national interest, it tends to erode confidence in your viewer about whether you have anything going on. So, you know, like in my county, we had to have us a little come to Jesus on this one, y'all, because they didn't post anything about any of our candidates, but they posted something about people in Florida that were protesting outside Mar-a-Lago when it got raided. And y'all, I damn near tore my hair out. You know, we're sitting here trying to replace Joe Uli Wilson, and we're going to talk about this. Like, I understand it's worth bringing up, but if all we're sharing is stuff to, pardon me, piss off our fellow Democrats, we're not moving them to action. We're not showing them that we're doing good work every day. We're not giving them reasons to be proud of their party. We're giving them reasons to be disgusted about everything. which doesn't exactly engender a whole lot of positive feelings about anything. One way that you can find content to share, I use Google Alerts. It's a big help. I have basically for all 50 states, I have a search running across news resources only that sends me a digest once per week on Democrats, comma, Wisconsin, Democrats, comma, Arizona. So that anything that's noteworthy that happened in the news this week, it will not only give me those highlights, it will also give me the most
Your
relevant.
Discover bar. I gotta set it up.
Huh? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Who's
I'm sorry.
interrupting?
Oh, I didn't know. I just thought somebody asked me so. Hey, I just unmuted myself. Is that okay? Okay. All right. So another thing that helps out a whole lot is local community good works organizations that are in alignment with democratic values. That is a huge missed opportunity most of the time to connect with other voters. Republicans do a lot with church-based organizing for the community, and they show up there, and it makes a big difference on whether they're turning out voters or not. Myself, when I was pregnant with my daughter, it's not a good time, and I wasn't getting enough to eat. And there's a church organization out here that did a lot to feed me and make sure I had a coat and things I didn't have. And I heard 10 years later that they were really worried that they weren't going to be able to do their typical holiday program. And I basically wrote them one, softened all the potential donors, called them already, handed them everything in a PDF and said, here, this should make you about $8,000. And they're like, who the hell are you? I thought you were a Democrat. It's like, I am, but you fed me. And I want you to keep feeding people. People don't forget your presence where people's needs are concerned. So this is another thing that I cannot stress enough, how important it is if we're going to be the party of the people, that if there's clothing drives we can get into, if there's school drives we can get into, if there's anything that we can do to help, with a strong emphasis, I might add, on parents with small children, which is the worst demographic that we actually message out to. We're really, I'm so proud of rural Democratic parties nationally basically being comfortable now to collect for the Homeless Period Project, which is a really, really important thing. There's a lot of women that don't have those products and need them. But you can't tell me we couldn't have a diaper pantry, and somebody always needs those. And so really treating yourself as more of a community resource goes a real long way into showing people who are politically disengaged who you are and what you're about. And that could be as simple as sharing their events, making sure you're helping promote these organizations that are doing good things for people. And then also, people love that. People absolutely love that. It makes them feel good about what they're doing and who they're involved with, to see that you're doing good things for people. But the thing is, we do a lot of things as Democrats that we do not share online because we're busy in the work. But if we don't show our work, how do people know? It'll still be the same handful of 10 or 12 of us that know that, you know, Miss So-and-so worked awful hard on that, works on that every year, but nobody else knows about that. Nobody knows what we're doing if we're not increasing our circle and bringing people in. I'm going to get through some of this stuff, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, because what I would really like to do, and I want to make sure I understand the best way to do this, is I'm going to make your district a checklist like I did for the counties, of just some actions you can take that will help your following to grow online and will help support what the county parties are doing. And the best way for me to do that would be like, who should I send that to when I have that?
Please, you send it to me. I'm the chair of
Send it to
LD
you?
19, Matthew Boyd. Yeah.
Okay. and you get it to we've had some interesting things, because like I usually went through Elizabeth for all the county chairs, and then as soon as I had to send this, she went on vacation. And I got the nice vacation responder, and then I had to send it to Mary, and then I had to call Mary. I was like, hey, hate to bug you, but I'm on vacation. So what I'm gonna do is probably here within the next week or so, I'm gonna send you guys a checklist of various things, and I know this is gonna sound like, oh no, can we do them? Well, when I sent them to the county chairs, every single thing I asked them to do, I included tutorials with pictures and walkthrough guides. So yes, you can do them. But what I'm
Wonderful.
trying to do for Arizona is be a support person. Was you guys learn to use digital tools and social media a little bit more. And unlike, this is kind of a unique situation, because the only thing that I have asked any of our Arizona participants to do is help me recruit for the social media team here, because I literally turn those volunteers around to go support everything that you're doing. And I have no problem sharing that data with anybody here. But we are running this through all of your county parties on a virtual handshake, because there's no liability of data sharing and nobody's paid for anything. This is just me coming in here and being available to help you build this out. Only thing I ask is every once in a while, throw a recruitment post up for a girl so I can get more Arizona teammates pushing your content. Okay, good. It's not like I specifically need them in Arizona. Y'all need them in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
And so this has been one way that I could get the counties also feeling like they had a sense of agency, because it might surprise people to know that with checks and balances and bylaws and all that stuff, the state party really isn't supposed to tell y'all everything to do. They're supposed to provide guidance. They're supposed to provide resources, and they do their best. But as far as micromanaging how everything happens in every legislative district and every county, there's a little bit of room left for that, because as we all know, geographical and cultural context is important. What works in one county may not work so hot in another county, right? So what happens though on chair level is that all a chair is a volunteer that's coming in here and doing the very best they know how to do, as long as they can, right?
Right.
And that's wonderful, okay? But they don't really know what to do sometimes. So they're sit there and they're wait to see what the state party says it's going to do. And the state party says, oh, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And they're like, what do I do? And the state party like literally isn't allowed to tell you every move to make. It's not how that works. So one thing I'm trying to do with this program is I'm giving our county chairs and our involved Democrats a little training and a little support, so that everybody feels like they have a sense of agency to go do things and to put them out there. So how I can help the legislative districts is I'm thinking the way that this makes the most sense would be for the legislative districts to back up the work of the counties that the counties are doing, because there's a lot on the counties individually. But one of the things that you're going to have to do is really, really push out what your counties are doing by using your Facebook presence to do it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And there are also some things I'm teaching the counties right now that will apply to y'all about management of your pages and how to like schedule out content several months in advance, so you're not sitting there every day going, now what? Because that gets to be a real hassle, especially if you're trying to make that, let's get everything out, something out every 24 hours at least, right? Like somebody said, well, what if I gotta go on vacation? Go on vacation and pre-schedule your posts, which we show people how to do. Because none
Melanie?
of this isn't.
We have a question in the chat. And the question is there any effort on Instagram or Tribal?
We are working into Instagram.
Okay.
We actually got summer fellow this year who is, I personally feel like she's a little Instagram revolution waiting to happen. I've never seen somebody tie things together on Instagram the way that she has. And she's building out, I'm lucky enough to have her, and she's building out our Instagram right now. And we're starting to develop more volunteer actions that will take place on Instagram. We just started with Facebook because Twitter is a bit of a mess and has been for a while, but it's really a mess right now. It's also not very conducive to organizing. One thing that I like about Facebook is that anybody at any time can create a group for any reason and organize people there, complete with mass messaging to the whole group and all kinds of options that normally people would not have if they didn't buy some kind of software suite to do that, right? So in particular, we do a lot of our work based on Facebook, but if you just hate it, Nancy, we will have some things that are available on Instagram to do. And as far as tribal goes, we're not really working with that yet. We may in the future. Did I scare y'all enough? Are y'all okay? Wasn't too
Oh,
bad.
we're good. We're blown away.
How about
TikTok.
Okay,
Jen?
so George, when it comes to TikTok for Gen Z, here's the interesting thing about TikTok. I like TikTok. I like what it can do. TikTok is absolutely useless for targeting. And these are the kinds of things that you think about. If you get 10 people together and you ask them about their TikTok journey, everybody's going to have a completely different thing to tell you. And also the lack of moderation that exists on the platform is problematic, but it's referred to by social media professionals as a dopamine pump
Oh, yeah.
because it's just scroll, 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 and it's really hard to push people to action. It's not to say that there's messaging that we can't use TikTok for that, but it's not really got the kind of platform that helps us target and get people into networks the way some of these other ones do. But Instagram and TikTok have a lot of overlap, and Instagram is a little bit more helpful toward doing the kinds of things that we're trying to do than say TikTok is. And the other thing about TikTok that I'm going to say is when it comes to any of these platforms, my best advice is to get really comfortable with them one at a time. Because we had kind of a interesting little kerfuffle over here with the state Democratic Party in South Carolina. The person who used to be our first chair of the party decided that he's going to do the TikTok. And I kept very politely trying to say, I don't know if that's such a hot idea, Trav, you know, because I know Trav's not familiar with the material and what makes for a good TikTok video, how to put that together, how to make that. He ended up going viral for some of the worst reasons possible. And it was largely Gen Z laughing at him, which is not what he wanted. And it's what I was trying to avoid. And so you have to remember that the thing about a social media platform is that every one of them has their own culture. Things that you can do on Twitter, like Twitter is the wild freaking West, man. Okay, like you can do stuff on Twitter, but Twitter probably caused a lot of detriment for itself in that it never fixed this limited character crap when it should have about 8 or 10 years ago. Because what happens with the limited characters is that people have to get really blunt about what they're trying to say. And that has a tendency to come across as argumentative in text. So even when you had people that meant well, sometimes flies off the rails real fast. And when it comes to TikTok, TikTok has had Facebook breathing down its neck since it got here because they're just basically pissed at how good their algorithm is for keeping people on the platform. But for our purposes, TikTok is really, really hard to break through. I mean, most of the things that go viral on TikTok, they're big for like one day and that's the end of them. And then when they really get big later, their viral, like building that they have, for now everybody's heard of it. Usually everybody hearing about it did not occur till it got off of TikTok and started being shared on Instagram and Facebook into Reels. Now, maybe that would take somebody back to the original TikTok video that was longer. But the other problem with these more video and short clip type formats is that they're constantly trying to monetize, and they're driving people off their platform left and right, because they'll make some sweeping decision where somebody who was a content creator was making money, and now they've cut them down to pennies, so they go hop somewhere else. And with all of that upheaval and startup culture going on in these platforms, it makes it a really difficult place to get anything established. Not to say it's not worth using, but it's really hard to develop a targeted plan on that. Does that make sense, George? Is that a good answer? Okay. So I'm all about it. If you guys got good TikTok creators or anything like that, you can absolutely use that. But my best advice would be to share that on every platform that you guys can figure out how to share it on, so you have better coverage. Do we have any other questions? Because what I'm planning on doing is sending you sort of a checklist, Matthew, to sort of get you plugged in and coordinated with what your counties are doing. And so
Yeah,
you guys work supportively with each other.
Yeah.
And one thing I can tell everybody on this call is the smartest thing y'all could do is get up every day when you're going to go on your social media platforms and look for what the hell's going on in Arizona, and comment, react, share, because nobody's going to do it for you. Like, it has to start somewhere. So that's one of the things I do is I get up every day, I have my coffee, I try to dodge my children who are jumping all over my head. I'm going to get you, George, 1 second, I see you. I go, what the hell is going on in South Carolina today? And I make sure that I am sharing into our state groups when people are trying to organize for events. Just because I can't go to something doesn't mean somebody else can't. And if I don't make it available to them, they won't see it. Right? But it takes a little bit of initiative, but most of this stuff can be done in a few minutes every day. It's just a commitment to doing it all the time. Yes, George, I'm sorry.
I'm just curious, is there any problem? It kind of leads into what you just finished talking about, sharing this information with other clubs in our area. We've got a couple clubs in our area that, have 400 or 500 people. So sharing
Let's
this
talk
would,
to 'em.
yeah.
Let's get them involved. Specifically, those kinds of groups, I would really love it if we could try to get them onto our social media team. Because the nice thing for people who are like over the legislative districts or the counties is that I'm literally building up a volunteer base for you that you don't even have to manage right now. And when things start coming up for elections, those are exactly the kinds of things that they're going to have put in their face at least once a week, those kinds of volunteering opportunities. So it's like, I never know how to phrase this right, because it's like, I feel like I'm coming on here like, give me your volunteers, right? But actually, I'm just turning around and sending these people right back to doing work for Democrats in Arizona.
Yeah.
That's where my focus on what I have my volunteers do. We work on the county, district, state, and national level in that order. I always tell them, I said, I had this one girl come on to one of our huddles, and she's one of our Gen Z people from Ohio in a very red county. And she is disabled. She has a walker. She's kind of a heavy set gal, and she protests. And she shows up to every one of these Republican events with a sign and her walker, and just sits there. And she's been very influential in causing some people to lose because they can't do anything to her, and she figured it out. So she, like, that's kind of a thing, that this guy can't go anywhere without this woman holding up some kind of reproductive rights sign. This poor gal sitting out there on this walker. And she's like, I could be sitting at home and feeling sorry for myself, or I could be grabbing attention. And I was like, the reason I'm having you guys talk to Miss Patty here is that What I'm trying to emphasize to you is that if you have a race going on in your state, and I'm not saying this is the direction to go, but as an individual that lives there, you could cause a Republican Senate campaign candidate so many damn problems just by showing up. That is something you could put your hands on and change because it's where you are. You have more access to that. People go, well, Melanie, who do you want to run for president? I don't even want to talk about that mess because if we don't worry about what's happening in our states, it doesn't matter who we get. We're going to be going through this crap every time. And we don't put enough emphasis on local, and it doesn't make people feel empowered. And all I'm trying to do, my team, is I train every little one of them to be democratic organizers in their own right. Tell them how to use tools, how to get things happen. Because I figured that's the best thing I could plant out there. So Matthew, I see your hand up. I'm so sorry. I'm just talking.
No, that's, thank you so very much. I mean, you've given us a lot of really great information and stuff to think about, but before things got too far away, I wanted to put in there that I agree with you. I think we need a Facebook team. And what I would like to ask everybody on the call, all our PCs, is to email me and let me know if you want to be part of the Facebook team. Because I think we need to get that organized. We need to get people who are really good at it and people who are going to be doing it. Like my wife, for instance, she's on Facebook a lot.
Yeah.
And
Like the hand, she's like, hi, that's me.
yeah. And I would really like to get, I think this is so important. I think what you offer us is so just, I don't even know how to describe it. I feel so excited about it. And
I was
how
excited
I
that your
think it
chairs
is.
just ran down the road with it so dang fast that my whole feed is just all Arizona when I get
Yeah.
up in the morning. You know, I was like, I live in South Carolina, y'all. I mean, that takes some coordination to make that happen. Okay. But one thing I was going to extend to all of you, I'm going to send you an email in a bit, Matthew. I'm going to have you share this with people. If y'all aren't sure how this works or you'd like to learn a little bit over time, I would like to welcome y'all to join our team because this is about the most low effort volunteer activity you're going to have. Most of what we ask our people to do takes between 30 seconds and 3 minutes, but you'll learn a lot about using social media. You'll learn a lot about messaging. You'll learn a lot about what makes for good content just by participating in this stuff. I have one little lady in Virginia, and she used to come to my huddles, and she used to have like this knit cap on, the sour face. She'd come in, like, how you doing today, Miss Pat? I'm getting it. Okay. Well, anymore, she's been with me about 10 months. Last time I saw her, she showed up to a huddle. She had her off the shoulder top. She had her little color in her hair because she's turned around and become something of an Instagram sensation over there where she lives because her grandson has a landscaping company and he was trying to set up their social media for it. And he said some things in front of her and she goes, that's just bullshit. That's never going to